Welcome to CBS Sports HQ Spotlight on a Picks and Power Rankings Tuesday. I'm Chris Hassel, getting you set to pick every game against the spread this week in the NFL. But we're going to start with Pete Prisco's Power Rankings, and we have the sixth different number one team this season. We've already had the Eagles, Lions, Bucks, Colts, Seahawks, and now the Rams sitting atop Pete's Power Rankings, followed by the New England Patriots. Maybe they will be the next team to become a new number one. Looking at just outside the top 10, you have some teams on the rise there in that third tier. Bears, Ravens, and Jaguars. Some with winning streaks like the Bears and Ravens. Jags coming off a really big win, a blowout fashion against the Chargers. Let's get into it with Pete Prisco and Leger Douzable. There's also an article that goes along with this. And Pete, in that article, you ranked the Rams number one, obviously, but you finished your statement on the Rams by saying, for now, they're the best team in the NFC. You didn't say NFL, and you also said for now. What does that mean?
Well, we got a lot of season left to play. I mean, look, they've done a really good job of putting themselves in position to be the number one seed.
Yeah.
But they got outplayed in that game the other day, and if it weren't for Sam Darnold throwing 4 interceptions, they would have lost that game, and they still had a chance to lose the game. So there are still some flaws on that team, and I've said it all along. One of the biggest flaws in my mind is the inability to have speed.
To get down the field.
And they got, I mean, they covered them last week. They did a nice job. They matched up well with them in some man-to-man situations, and they didn't win. And they didn't look like Matt Stafford and the offense was expected to look. Defensively, they were fantastic, and Chris Shula's done a great job with the defense. But I'm still concerned a little bit with the lack of speed down the field.
To me, that is more indicative of how good the Seahawks defense is. You talked about it, 4 interceptions. Usually it's a blowout type game.
Yeah.
They had a chance for a 61-yard field goal to win at the end. But I'm glad you brought up Chris Shula because I don't think he gets talked about enough. Everybody's talking about Matt Stafford, and he has found the fountain of youth, and this is probably the best season he's had. But to your point, they didn't win this game because of the offense and Matt Stafford and Kyron Williams. And Kyron Williams ran the ball really well, especially early in the game. But Chris Shula, what he's been able to do with reclamation projects, and I call guys like Emmanuel Forbes, Darius Williams, like these are guys that people, you know, once they went to other teams and Emmanuel Forbes was a high draft pick, people thought he was a bust. He's playing really well. I mean, when you look at what he did to Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think in 20 snaps when they were man-to-man coverage, he only gave up 3 catches for 30 yards. There was an opportunity, right, for Shaheed to catch a touchdown down the right sideline. He used that length to bat the ball away. He's played really good for them, and that defensive front can just get after you. I don't know what it is with Chris Shula. He had something on Sam Darnold because going back to the playoffs last year, he had him seeing ghosts. And again, that defensive line, what Chris Shula has done hasn't been talked about enough. This is why they are one of the best teams in the NFL. I know the offense is good, but Chris Shula has that defense playing at a high level.
One quick thing about the offense. We rave about Sean McVay, and he is a master play caller. He can use a ton of formations and scheme guys open and everything. But at some point, the lack of the big play speed guy, I think, could catch up with him. And I go back to, look, you can scheme your way to a certain point, but players win. And we go back to the Super Bowl when he played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. What did they do? They came up with a 6-man front, and they schemed, and they couldn't move the football. And I think eventually they got to, again, Atwell might come back or should come back. And if he does, they got to get some speed down the field.
I think Puka Nacua is that equalizer. Now, he had a fumble that kind of hurt them in that game, which actually gave the Seahawks a chance to come back and win that game. But he's so good run after catch. I think, yes, you don't have the down-the-field speed, but I think he equalizes that because when he catches it, he turns into a running back, and he's hard to bring down.
Still, they took him away a little bit, too, at times.
Stafford is the favorite to win MVP as of right now, just slightly over Drake May and the Patriots, who are number 2. Let's jump down to number 5. The Denver Broncos, a team that, Pete, you've been questioning the last month or so because of the offense. What did Bo Nix and this team prove in that victory over the Chiefs?
Well, the defense played a heck of a game like we expected them to do. But
always do.
I still am not totally
You're still not there,
sold
B?
on the offense. You're sold on the offense?
We had this argument last week. I told you they're championship contenders.
I don't think the offense is there yet.
I think it's good enough to win the championship.
Sean Payton can get it there because he is so good. But at some point, you know, Bo Nix is going to.
He played well last night.
He played well in the second half of that game. He did. I give him credit. But the bottom line is I don't know if they're good enough offensively. Defense travels in the playoffs, though. I mean, and by the way, if you end up with the number 1 seed, you're not going to have to travel until the Super Bowl
and
Sunday.
you're getting Sertan back, too.
Right. and they're good they're really good on defense.
Yeah, I actually think you should have him high on your list. I know you had concerns when we talked last week about Bo Nix, but again, he showed why he's been the best fourth quarter quarterback in all the league. But the funny thing is, he actually started the game off hot too in this game. They just struggled in the red zone. Now you have to give some love to Steve Spagnuolo because he knows how to, scheme it up in the red zone to hold teams to field goal attempts. So you see it right there. Most fourth quarter comeback wins. Bo Nix and the Broncos have 5. They lead this year or tied with the Bears and the Buccaneers. But Bo Nix showed in clutch situations, he's calm under pressure. Right, 3rd and 15, you're thinking, oh no, the Chiefs are going to give the ball back to Mahomes, and he's going to end them like he always does. Well, he's able to navigate the pocket, find Cortland Sutton to uncover for a big first down. And then that throw to Troy Franklin, that was pinpoint accuracy because he understood Jalen Watson had outside leverage. You have to put that inside. If you put that outside, Jalen Watson has the opportunity to pick the ball up.
I don't know about that. He might have missed that throw and got away with it.
I think he purposely threw it inside because he understood the leverage of Jalen.
I don't agree with that.
You don't want to give no love to Bo Nix.
I think Bo Nix played well the other day.
And like I was telling you before, with this defense, and you said they're good. No, they're special. And like you said, their best player is still coming back. They can lean on that defense all the way to a championship.
We'll see.
They did it in 2015.
I still think you need more from the offense. Here's the other thing about those comebacks. They keep. Would you rather be leading and not have to have any comebacks at all?
But this game was a little different.
But we put those stats up all the time, though. We always say comeback, comeback, comeback. Wouldn't you rather be leading and not have to be a guy that comes back?
It often comes back to bite you at some point.
Yes. Yes.
Hasn't yet for Denver. They do have the week off. Commanders, Raiders after that, so they might end up running away with that division. Yeah. One division that doesn't seem like anybody's going to run away with is the NFC West because you have 3 teams with an opportunity to win this thing. The Rams, obviously, number 1. They've got the leg up now with the victory over the Seahawks this past weekend. Why'd you drop the Seahawks so far to 7 after a game where you said they did outplay the Rams, they just didn't win?
Well, the big red flag in the room is Sam Darnold. And in the back of your mind, you've all sat there, we've sat there, you've said it too, we've all said it.
You said it wouldn't happen until December.
Well, I was surprised it happened in November, and that's even worse of a sign. And look, 4 interceptions, and it wasn't like they were great plays on the ball. He threw bad throws. Those are right into their stomach.
3 were his fault for sure. 1 maybe not.
Right into the stomach of the defensive backs. I mean, it was just bad. And he's played that defense last year in the playoffs, but he played them in the regular season, and it's almost like he sees ghosts when he plays them. Man. And he's all sped up. And remember, he saw ghosts back in the day once upon a time.
That's a callback.
Yeah. And so I'm concerned about it. And anybody who says they're not concerned, and I saw his teammates came to his defense and said anybody who questions him you saw that. He said it.
It was Ernest Jones.
Ernest Jones.
Yeah.
And, you can question him after that game. It was awful.
When you look at it, Pete, their 3 losses come against playoff contending teams, right? San Fran, Bucks, the Rams. The common denominator in those losses was crucial turnovers by Sam Darnold. The end of the game versus the 49ers, he's in the pocket. The tackle gets bull rushed into him. You have to protect the football in the pocket. Fumbles right there. The late interception versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then this game, you alluded to it, Pete. 4 interceptions. I would say 3 was on him. 1 was on Elijah Arroyo. You have to cut in front of that safety. You cannot leave your quarterback out to dry because he's throwing to a spot. But there is some concern. Because, again, these are the type of teams that you're going to face if you want to make a run to the Super Bowl. And you're making critical mistakes in inopportune times. We talked about this earlier. 4 interceptions, you're usually getting blown out in the game. The Seahawks defense kept you in the game. So if you're Sam Darnold, when you have these type of matchups, no, you can lean on your defense. You don't have – I feel like he was pressing in the game, Pete. A lot of times when you got that internal pressure and you backpedal, you don't get enough on the ball, and that's where those interceptions come. When you look at the first interception, he had the guard pushed into his lap. He was backpedaling and threw it off his back foot. Interception. He tried a jump pass on one. It was terrible. And got picked off. Like, you cannot make those plays. Sometimes taking a sack, sometimes punting the football away is a win for your team, especially when you have the defense the Seattle Seahawks defense has.
And you watch the tape, they dared him to throw the football, run the football. And so they haven't run the ball as well as we'd expect.
Walker ran it pretty well
the other day. He did. Yeah. But the other day he did. And they dared him to run the football. But that's going to be the formula. Go ahead, Seattle, you run the ball because we're taking away those chunk plays down the field. And that's what the Rams did.
Every team with 3 or fewer losses is in Pete's top 8 this week, except the Chicago Bears. Now, this kind of goes back to your previous point about the Broncos. It's a team that continues to pull out games late. 5 times they've come back in the final 2 minutes of a game. They did it again this past week against the Vikings.
And you look at that schedule. I mean,
it gets really tough.
It does. It gets really, really tough.
Really tough.
I think how many teams has a winning record that they've beat? I think it's that they've
maybe I don't even know if it's one.
It's not one. The Lions blew them out. And so I think when you look at it, they've been a favorable schedule. They've had some great performances coming back. You've got to give Ben Johnson credit. Caleb Williams is improving. The offense is improving. They're running the football. And so I give them a lot of credit, but we got to see more going forward. And we will. Look, the schedule gets brutal at the Eagles.
Only one team with a losing record on the way out.
It's unreal. if they navigate through that, Chris, and end up in the postseason, Ben Johnson will have done a hell of a job.
Coach of the year.
Might be.
Coach of the year. Another thing that's concerning, right? Them getting turnovers at the clip they're getting them at. Is that sustainable? Because that is also aided in them in a lot of these comeback wins. Kevin Byard's had an all-pro year, taking the football away. But you talked about it, Pete. The schedule is a gauntlet down the stretch. And when you look at this Bears team, you give them kudos for winning those games. Because last year, Pete, they found inventive ways to lose games. They're finding ways to win games. Even this last game, right? Minnesota, just like week 1, they have a really great fourth quarter. J.J. McCarthy puts it together in the fourth quarter. They come back. Then they get a special teams return that puts them in good field position. Caleb makes one pass, puts Cairo Santos in order to win the game at the end. So I love that they've been able to find ways to win instead of lose. But to your point, when you look at some of the teams they beat, these aren't playoff caliber teams. And they've had to get a lot of these wins at the end. The Raiders game, the Minnesota Vikings game, all come at the end. We'll learn a lot about this team over the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Our best win probably against the Cowboys this season. But again, they only played one team with a winning record, and they lost that to the Lions. Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that did not have to play a tight game this past week. They blew away the Chargers, but they're up and down, it seems like, every other week, Pete. Do you take more from that or more from the losing streak we saw them have?
Well, I think this is one of those moments when a coach gets his team and really tests him and brings it together, and you got to figure out what happens. Because you blow a 19-point lead on the road in the fourth quarter, that thing could spiral.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, he got them all together on Monday, and he said, we're not allowing this to spiral out of control. We're going to get back together. He told Trevor Lawrence, you got to turn the ball loose. You got to throw it. You got to take your shots. They came out and threw the ball in the first 5 plays of the game. Yeah. And I think that kind of got them together. And they dominated in every way, shape, or form in that game. They ran the ball. They physically mauled them at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. On defense, a group that hadn't had any pressure got pressure. Now, the line stinks in the Chargers.
Game.
The Chargers line stinks, but they dominate. And you look at their schedule, take a peek at that schedule going forward. This team's probably going to be in the playoffs. I don't know how good they are, but they're going to be in the playoffs.
Well, they have that cushion, a 1-game lead over the Chiefs and the tiebreaker.
Yeah, the
Chargers, because they beat them, and the Chargers have but Chargers' schedule gets really tough too.
But I'm glad Jack put that up. Shout out to Josh Hines-Allen, who now is the active leader in sacks in Jacksonville Jaguar history. Pete, we were talking about this last week. Where's the pass rush been? Well, it came this last game. Josh Hines-Allen had a really good rush. Eric Armstead essentially closed the game out at the end. I love how their defensive backs played. Monteric Brown had a heck of a game. Jerry and Jones had a heck of a game. They had kind of struggled throughout this year, and we were wondering, what is going on with Michael Campanelli and his defense? It would look so good in the beginning of the year. They were taking the football away, but they looked like a shell of themselves. Well, they got back to being who they were this last week, and to your point, maybe the offensive line, albeit had an opportunity or had something to do with it. The Chargers' offensive line really struggling. But you love that this team bounced back from adversity. Because like you said, it could have went left. It literally could have went left. You have a 19-point lead, and you give that up to a divisional foe, lose that game, the season could essentially be over. So shout out to their head coach for getting everybody on one accord. Love how physical they were running the football. I think that is the formula for them, that two-headed monster in the backfield.
Jacoby Myers has been a really good pickup for them.
He is.
He's
especially on third down, yeah.
I'm looking at the schedule now. 2 games against the Titans. They have the Cardinals and the Jets. So definitely.
And they never lose to the Colts in Jacksonville, no matter how good
the Colts are.
No matter how good the Colts are. And they've come in there with some really good teams. They don't lose to them in Jacksonville.
That one's on the first Sunday of December. The Jacksonville Jaguars in pretty good position now after that victory as we continue to go through Pete Prisco's power rankings here on CBS Sports HQ Spotlight. To the middle tiers of Pete Prisco's power rankings, and who would have thought the Chiefs would be on here 10 games into the season. They are in the, I don't know, Jim. And you got the Cowboys rising into the Jeff Fisher.
How about them Cowboys?
If they can get back to 500 shortly, they might be able to make a run.
We saw
to the
Happy
playoffs.
Jerry on Monday.
Yeah, we did.
Happy Jerry.
Let's start with unhappy Patrick and Andy and Travis and all those Kansas City Chiefs. Pete, last week you played out the rest of their schedule. You thought that they could win every single game and get on a run going into the postseason. Have you changed your mind about this team after what you saw in Denver?
No, I still think they'll get on a run. And it could have won that game. I mean,
could have.
I mean,
Could've,
don't throw an a red zone interception. That's the moral of that story is the quarterback needed to play better. And we all sit here and
how often do we say that?
we
though, about
praise
Mahomes?
him as the best player in the league, and everybody would take him, and he did not play that well last week. He just did not. And so I'm concerned. But I think they're in a perfect spot this week. They whacked the Colts. The Colts will come in. They beat the Colts.
They whacked the Colts?
It's one of those ambushes.
You thought they was going to whack the Denver Broncos?
No, I didn't think they were going to whack them. I thought they would beat them. In one of those ambushes where you sit there and you wait for a team, they're going to wait for them.
They're a wounded animal right now?
You know they are. And they can run the table. You look at their schedule, it's favorable the rest of the way, and I think they can run this game. It is. Who's good on that schedule? They get the Broncos late in the season. That might not matter.
They got the Texans defense,
and
the Cowboys got reinforced. At the Cowboys.
At home.
The Cowboys is at the Cowboys.
No, the Cowboys is. I'm saying the Texans are at home.
They may only be able to afford one more loss to get into the postseason.
They might be in trouble, which, again, it's hard to say that for the Kansas City Chiefs because of the pedigree. But, Pete, it goes back to what we talked about.
The Chargers game might end up, by the way, deciding which one of those two teams
get in, for sure. We talked about this last week. Like, what's their identity? When you look at it, to me, on offense, their best plays were trying to figure out where Riley Moss was on 3rd and long and get a PI. That's not sustainable. They can't run the football. Like, Kareem Hunt has a few good runs, but he even got banged up in this game, so we'll see where he's at coming forward. I just don't know if they have an identity on offense. And on defense, we talked about Bo Nix and how he continues to be a really good quarterback in the fourth quarter, Brett, in the fourth quarter. Pete, he wasn't touched in the fourth quarter.
No, they have no
He
pass
had
rush.
all day to throw the football.
Rush.
So to me, that's why, I think they could be in trouble just because the Colts can run the ball and shrink that game with Jonathan Taylor. The Texans have a really good defense, probably one of the top 2 defenses in football. The Cowboys finally got some juice, and we know they're going to put up points, so it's going to be a shootout.
C.J. Stroud coming back? We don't know.
Davis Mills is 2-0, though.
Well, yeah.
He is 2-0, but I trust the defense. That's what I'm saying. Just like the Broncos, if you have that type of defense, you're going to be in every game.
But at some point, Davis Mills will turn into Davis Mills.
We'll see. I mean, you thought Bo Nix would turn into Bo Nix?
Bo Nix hasn't been great this year.
He was good this last game.
Yeah, but he hasn't been great this year.
He's been good in the fourth quarter.
But he's had to be. They had a 20-point lead.
They were
behind. They were behind the Giants by 20 points at home.
Everybody's had at least one of those games, Pete. But I'm just saying, again, until they figure out what their identity is, and you talked about it, the quarterback has to play better. He didn't play well last week, and there's real concerns when it comes to getting after the quarterback. Those corners are good, but they can't cover forever.
By the way, this guy jumped off the Jets bandwagon and onto the Broncos bandwagon.
The Jets. So I picked the Jets to go to the Super Bowl this year, Pete?
No, but you picked somebody, though.
No, I picked the Ravens and the Commanders.
Yeah. Ravens don't get there,
like
by
you
the way.
said last week, did I not have the Broncos winning this division at the beginning of the year?
Washington can
Did I not have the Broncos winning?
You did.
Okay, that's all I'm just saying. So you can't say I jumped off a bandwagon when I had them winning the division.
By the way, the Ravens can still win the Super Bowl.
100%. I'm hoping because I picked them to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year.
You mentioned that Chargers team, the team that might be the most likely team for the Kansas City Chiefs to chase down.
Yeah.
Because they're far from the team they were week 1 when we saw them beat Kansas City.
Well, they can't run the ball. They don't have anybody who can run the ball. The line stinks. The protection's awful. I mean, they put Penning in there, and he was terrible, and they pulled him out of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no tackles. It's just a disaster. And here's the problem with this team right now. When we think of Jim Harbaugh football, we think of physical, nasty, tough, run the ball, be good on defense, get after it. And Jacksonville out Jim Harbaugh them last week, and that should never happen.
But is that because of the injuries they sustained?
It has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with it. And look, Herbert got sped up, and he didn't look comfortable ever. He was bad. It was one of his worst games ever.
For sure.
And so now the pressure's on this team. let's be real. The pressure's on Justin Herbert.
100%.
I mean, this is year 2 of this grouping, and they're supposed to be a team that goes to a new heights. And you can take those 2 tackles out of the equation. They don't play defense. The defense was awful. They don't rush.
They've actually been pretty good for most of the year.
But they were the other day.
No,
they
were
weren't,
really
and they didn't
bad
rush
the
the
other day.
passer at all.
Yeah.
So I think they have major issues. And you look at their schedule, by the way.
We had this discussion last week, Pete, remember? And you looked at me crazy when I said they're going to lose 5 straight. And it was because of it. Remember I had to say.
You had them losing to Jacksonville?
No, well, we talked about it. I said this could be a tricky game, but remember the schedule at the bottom, I have them losing 5 straight.
To finish the season.
And Chargers fans were at my neck, and I was like, that offensive line
one
is
of them
bad.
came in and broke your wrist.
They really did.
Wow.
But
God, they got after you.
They did. But, Pete, we talked about it. Without having your bookend tackles, like you talked about it, Justin Herbert is sped up. They haven't been able to run the ball consistently, and that has kind of been who they've been at their core, but it hasn't been this year. This year it's kind of been like Justin Herbert, go win us the football game, spin it around. But that's not who Jim Harbaugh or Greg Roman is at heart. So it's just like, when I look at it, I'm like, you can't really overcome 2 offensive tackles at that caliber. Those 2 guys were 2 of the best tackles in football. It's really hard to overcome that week in and week out.
But they did it the week before against Pittsburgh. And everybody thought, okay, well, here they come. But I'm with you.
Their defense played a lot better that week. Yeah,
They did.
Exactly.
They did.
To your point, Leger, they finish up Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos.
They can lose all 5 of those games.
They do get the Raiders coming off the bye next week on CBS.
They'll win that one.
Let's move to
Dang,
the
you don't got no
Panthers.
faith in the Raiders?
No, do you?
No.
Carolina Panthers, the lowest ranked winning team in Pete's power rankings. That's not really a surprise. Only a half game out of first place, though, in the division. And Bryce Young was slinging it.
He was throwing it around. I mean, look, I got to give him credit. He played outstanding football. But here's the problem with this team.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you know why they're like that? Up and down because they're young. Young teams don't know how to, when they win, they don't know how to have sustainable success by
handle
winning,
success.
by building and stacking them on top of each other. And so you're going to have that with them. I thought he was fantastic the other day. It might have been his best game. I mean, really.
Oh, ever.
Yeah, he looked fantastic, got dinged up, went back in the game, and still played very well. So you got to give him credit for that. But again, you go to San Francisco. Go to San Francisco against a good team and prove to people that this is legitimate. Yep. You're a young team. You know you're going to have peaks and valleys, but then you got to try and get rid of the valleys and stay here at least for a while.
Tough day for you, huh, Pete? Bryce Young and Bo Nix balled out. The short quarterbacks.
Yeah. You can have them. I'll take everybody else. You want them for the Super Bowl? Go ahead.
I liken it to what you always say about Jordan Love, like open it up. This was the first game. Now, it was by script because they were down 21-7. That Canellis literally opened it up and put the ball in Bryce's hand. And he had to do that because they couldn't run the ball. People know that you want to run it with Rico Dotto. And they were down by 14. And we saw the best Bryce. And we talked about it this offseason, Pete. They did a really good job refortifying this team with talent on the outside. I mean, when you look at them, and I said this during training camp, this was the first time I went to their training camp and I was like, oh, this looks like a team that can compete with everybody. I mean, they're big everywhere. The interior of the defensive line, the interior of the offensive line. The receivers are big guys. Xavier Legette, Tedero McMillan, and Jalen Coker, like he might be the biggest slot receiver in the league. And they got contributions from all of those guys. Bryce Young played within rhythm. He was gutsy. You talked about he had the ankle injury, got hurt, came back, led them on a win in overtime. I love what I saw from this Panthers team, but it goes back to what you said, Pete. It can't be a seesaw, right? Which team is going to show up? Now you have an opportunity to let the league know you're a legit team, a team that can go to the playoffs. On a national stage on Monday night versus San Fran, they had an opportunity after they beat Green Bay at Green Bay. Remember, they lost at home to the Saints. Let's see if they can finally put it together.
They also had that chance. Remember, they beat the Cowboys at home, and they had a 3-game winning streak, and they had the Buffalo Bills and got blown out in that game.
Yeah.
So it's a tough schedule the rest of the way and a tough road for the Carolina Panthers if they are going to make the postseason. Same for the Dallas Cowboys, but they might be more equipped to go on a run here at the end. Now, Sportsline says they only have an 8.5% chance to make the playoffs because their next 3 games are extremely difficult.
Well, they are difficult, but look, they can win those games.
They got 2 at home.
I know, and all of a sudden you look at it, we know they're good on offense, and one thing you're seeing is the offensive line's coming together again. You know, Steele at right tackle has been a problem for him for most of the year, but the rest of that group, they get them together, they're playing better, and that makes Dak Prescott that much better. I mean, he's playing at a really high level, doesn't get the credit he deserves. I thought he was fantastic Monday night. And when you look at the defense, they had 6 new guys that weren't there. 6. There were 6 of them. You get those guys playing. And Quinton Williams is a difference maker in the middle of that defense. And you get Ravel coming back. I mean, a corner, he's got some speed. You add those guys to the mix, and all of a sudden you say, wait a second, the defense might not be as bad as we think it is.
It's so funny, Pete, because I think we also did the NFC East breakdown, and I think I had them going 9-7-1. And it's because of these next 3 games that's going to determine if they make the playoffs. I think they just got to win one of those has. Because 9-7-1 could maybe get you in. Now, it all comes down to tiebreakers, and unfortunately for them, they did lose to the Chicago Bears, so that's going to be a team that they're chasing.
Yeah, and the Panthers.
Yeah, so like when you look at it, they're tight with all those other teams. But the way this offense plays, they're going to be in every single game. You talked about it, the additions of guys, not only that they added via trade, but guys that are healthy now, right? People forget, even though they lost to the Cardinals and DeRon Bland had a bad game, he was banged up that game. He looked so much better Monday night. Now, again, albeit it's the Raiders. The Raiders aren't good this year. He looked good. Malik Hooker came with a lot of juice coming back from injury. Talked about Suvon Revel. He was a first-round talent that fell to the 3rd because of the ACL. He looked good. And then DeMarion Overshown, to me, is their spiritual guy. Like, he's their rah-rah guy. He's their energy guy. And he played in spurts because he is coming back off the injury. You would think as the season progresses, he's going to get healthier. So now they can get after the quarterback. Now they have guys in the back end that can cover. And with that offense, I think they're going to win at least one of these 3. But if they were to get 2, I think the Cowboys are getting into the playoffs.
Well, here's the other part of it. Can they catch the Eagles?
Nah, I don't think so.
Have to win this week.
The Eagles will have to start losing games,
Right.
though. That's the issue.
The Eagles' schedule's pretty tough, though.
It is, but that defense is
No,
real.
they're good.
Yeah.
But they better start scoring points on offense, or they're going to have problems. Yeah.
Cowboys number 20 in Pete Prisco's power rankings. We still have more to get to. The final 12 teams in Pete's rankings, including the Cleveland Browns. Back here on HQ Spotlight and to the bottom of Pete Prisco's power rankings. There's Leger's Super Bowl pick from the NFC, the Commanders at 26.
It sure was.
Leger's former team, the
and
Jets
falling,
at 30.
and falling, by the way.
And then a couple teams in that dumpster fire category, although the Titans are the only team without multiple wins this season. Titans with just 1 measly win. Let's focus in on the Dolphins there at 23, because for all the talk and bashing that we've done on the culture and all that stuff, they've won 3 of 4 now.
Mike McDaniel, you have to give him credit. Now, again, the Commanders essentially, I don't know if either of those teams wanted to win that game the other day in Spain. They both gave the other team an opportunity to win the game. But kudos to him for getting everybody ready and still continuing to fight. That was a massive win from the Bills. And the defense is actually starting to play really well the last couple of weeks. We saw it versus Buffalo. Jack Jones has played really well. Unfortunately for them, Brents got hurt. He had been playing well opposite of Jack Jones, so we'll see what happens when it comes to that injury. But even Tua's played extremely well these last couple of weeks. And I don't think enough people are talking about Devon Achane. And it's probably because the Dolphins have a losing record. He's been one of the most explosive and dynamic players in the NFL this year. So kudos to Mike McDaniel. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think it's too much to try to catch up to the rest of the AFC. But kudos to him for having his team continue to fight.
But the word is they don't want to fire him. The word is the owner doesn't want to fire him. And so if you make a little run, and this is a little run, maybe get a couple more, then you could justify keeping him. And look, it was coaching malpractice at the end of that game. For him not to kick the field goal and then to call timeout twice when the Commanders had the ball to give them an opportunity to kick a field goal.
Correct.
And he got away with it. But you're right. He deserves some credit here for turning this thing around. They could have spiraled and got out of control. They beat the Bills. Okay, they're a rival. You beat them. But then they go on the road. They go to Spain and
Overseas,
they beat Commanders on on the road overseas. That's a good win. So now the schedule's favorable.
Saints and Jets the next 2 weeks.
I mean, they can get on a little mini run here. And if they do, I don't think they're getting rid of him. And our guys on the show, Damian Harris was saying, oh, well, look, the bottom line is that the players play for him. They want Mike McDaniel. Of course they want Mike McDaniel. They run all over him.
Well, that and also, like, if a new coach comes in, you know how it is. A lot of coaches, like, I don't know if you fit my scheme, so they might move on from the current
Mike
players.
McDaniel, the whole problem has been discipline.
To your point, Tua's money is guaranteed next year. I don't think people talk about that
he ain't
enough.
going anywhere.
So it's just like, why would you bring a new coach in if Mike McDaniel does go on a mini run? Why not keep them together for at least one more year? Because you can't move off of Tua for at least another year, so it makes no sense.
But if you're the general manager going in there, you get hired, you get stuck with Mike McDaniel and the quarterback.
You know you're stuck for a year if you get that job with both of those guys for at least
By
another
this
year.
week, before those 2 winnable games against the Saints and the Jets. All right, to the Browns we go, and here we go with Shedeur Sanders reportedly going to get his first start with Dylan Gabriel in concussion protocol. What does a full week of first-team reps do for him?
He'll be marginally better, I think. The bottom line is he was awful the other day, and it wasn't fair to the kid. Is it fair to the kid? No, but you're the backup quarterback. You got to be ready for it. Go in and play. He was bad, and I don't understand why so many people come to his defense when you say he's bad. He was awful the other day. There's no way to sugarcoat that. Is it a great situation? No. Is Dylan Gabriel much better? No. He hadn't played very well at all. So why not play Shedeur Sanders? Find out what you have in him. Let him play. I'm a big believer in. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's the answer for the long term there. I didn't think that when they drafted him. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the long-term answer there. But let him play and find out what he is.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. I don't think he's going to have great success. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah. But give him the opportunity to do it.
And ownership has kind of come out and said we want to see both of these guys because you need to know what you need to do going into next year's draft. They have a lot of draft capital in the first round. If they don't feel like one of these guys could potentially be their franchise guy, they need to find out right now. The thing that really sucks about this, I know we're talking about Shedeur Sanders and also Dylan Gabriel. What's getting lost is how dominant this Browns defense is.
Unreal.
It really stinks. Like, because Myles Garrett is the best player in the NFL. I'm going to say that again.
He is.
Myles Garrett is the best player in the NFL. And people don't get to see it on a week-in and week-out basis because of how bad this offense is and because of the issues at the quarterback position. I mean, he has 10 sacks in the last 3 games. He has 15 sacks already this year. Like, he's done something that nobody else has done as far as 6 straight years with 12-plus sacks. And Carson Schwarzenegger, even though he's a rookie, he's playing at an all-pro level. It just stinks that this defense doesn't get an opportunity to play in bigger games and on bigger stages. But to Pete's point, it's time for Shedeur Sanders to play. You saw Dylan Gabriel for a couple of games. He's out because he's not healthy right now, but you need to figure out what that quarterback room is before going to this year's draft.
You know what I liked about the post game with Shedeur Sanders? He took it on himself.
He did.
I mean, and look, most guys wouldn't do that. He did that. So now here you go. It's yours. Let's go see what you have. And I really want to see. I don't think he's the long-term answer, but you can find out down the stretch here.
I will say this. Even when Dylan Gabriel was hurt and the Browns were up, the energy changed when he came in. The fans have been wanting to see him. It even seems like some of the players on the sideline have been wanting to see him. So to your point, this is a real good opportunity for Shedeur Sanders. You get a whole week of preparation. Now it's going to be up to you.
And you're not playing a good team.
I think they play the Raiders. Yeah, so, and we brought this up the other day. Let's not forget, you thought you were going there. A lot of people had you going there in the draft. They passed on you not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times. 4 different times the Raiders passed on you. So you have a real opportunity to stick it to them this week.
Yeah. But I think the Browns have made a decision on neither one of these guys is going to be the long-term future.
We'll see. Maybe he can prove them wrong this week against the Raiders. That game is on CBS in the late window at 4:05 Eastern Time. Pete Prisco's Power Rankings can be found at cbssports.com. You can also see Pete on Game Day Recap, Sundays at 8:20 Eastern Time. Right as the Sunday Night Football game is kicking off, those guys will dive deep into everything they saw earlier in the day.